Hello and thank you for joining me in this Mind Mastery video. A while ago, I've made a video on distinguishing between loneliness and being alone and how these states can be very different. And today I wanted to take it a step forward and actually discuss the kind of power or magic of solitude. So being alone, essentially, without all this maybe challenging states of loneliness. The most common issues I encounter either personally or hear from my clients or hear from other people is that when they do get this opportunity for being alone, they're not really sure what to do with this state. It feels a bit wrong. And I think in many ways we have this idea that we need to have lots of friends or we need to socialize a lot, and being alone is kind of maybe weird or something that can be kind of painful to some people. So we either kind of don't know what to do with our time when we feel alone or we feel kind of lonely, which can seem like one and the same state. But when we don't know how to spend time, where we don't find comfort in being by ourselves, that's when that loneliness can creep in and we might start looking for opportunities to socialize, or we might start, dramatizing that, oh my gosh, we are all by ourselves. And then of course there's this level of kind of existential loneliness and how alone everyone really is, essentially. I mean, it is not the whole truth because it is just one of the perspectives that we are kind of separate. We are on our own, essentially. But there is an alternative perspective too, that no matter what we do and no matter how long we sit in our room by ourselves, let's say, we are still connected with everyone and everything else around us. So that there's this kind of spiritual aspect to seeing loneliness or being by yourself, that maybe in some ways transcends these practicalities of maybe not having friends or having too many friends and not finding time for yourself, which is also just kind of another aspect of the issues I want to talk about. So I think fundamentally when we feel lonely, we might not only kind of maybe struggle to know what we should do with our time, what we need to do, what we want to do with our time, but I think it can, to some extent, also force us into this state maybe of anxiety or depression and realizing this singleness or aloneness in the universe. But also I think there's this aspect of maybe not knowing ourselves and not really knowing what we want or what we need. So socializing from this perspective can be very easy because then we just use the opportunity of knowing other people and observing other people and seeing what other people are doing. And then it's very easy to do the same thing as well, right? So if one of our friends picks up a new hobby, then we might be inclined to do the same thing. We might start thinking like, oh yeah, I want to do the same thing. So from this perspective, when we socialize a lot, our identity might start depending on our people. So we start to know ourselves by proxy, essentially. So by observing what other people are doing, or by reflecting on their experiences and stuff like that. But the problem with loneliness, if there's any, I think is the fact that we might be struggling to accept the fact that, okay, we are alone, we are separate from other people, and no matter how much we socialize, we'll be still autonomous and independent and separate and distinct human being. And I think that acceptance is a point of turning your loneliness into this, healthy state of solitude, regardless if you choose it or not. And there is nothing wrong. Of course, I'm not trying to say that, longing for human connection or belongingness or friends and intimacy is something we need to get rid of. But it's not the end of the world. And I know for some people it might be kind of difficult to overcome or difficult to stay with. Some people might have some trauma from childhood. But essentially, it is drive, it is a need, just like any other we have. So when we struggle that need, that's when that loneliness can creep in. When we struggle to accept, struggle to sit with ourselves, that's where maybe these feelings of rejection or social isolation might start creeping in, because then we are forced to just sit with ourselves, with our thoughts, and realize how we feel, how we are without other people. And there's a huge opportunity in that state of reconnecting with ourselves, of knowing ourselves better, of processing our feelings from the past and planning for the future, realizing what's important in our life. Right? Because if we kind of chase other people all the time and we spend all our free time with other people, and when we are not within people, we long for being with other people, where is the space for being with ourselves? I think there come lots of benefits from accepting your solitude, from choosing to be alone, from embracing the state of loneliness, essentially. And maybe at times even choosing to be on your own to get into that mode of reconnecting with yourself. And I understand that it might take some courage and practice for some people to get into that state of getting benefits from solitude, especially those who maybe have like trauma from the past. But essentially, like, I think even in trauma, there's a potential for growth. There is potential for learning. As we learn to as we stay with our feelings and learn how to process these feelings, especially when we're being on our own. So apart from that clarity or greater clarity of knowing yourself better, knowing what you want, knowing what your priorities are, processing all these kind of feelings, understanding your relation to other people and the dynamics you engage in, apart from all that clarity that we can gain from solitude and spending time on ourselves, I think also we can be better at relationships, essentially, because if you can make yourself happy, if you can make yourself at peace, if you can comfort yourself, your emotions, and take care of the needs that you can take care of by yourself, then maybe you can stop expecting others to take care of all these needs for yourself. So, and once you drop these expectations, regardless if they are conscious or unconscious, very often they are unconscious, that's where you can start seeing others more clearly, right? Because you don't see them solely as someone who can meet your needs for, companionship or learning about yourself or self-expression and stuff like that. Once you stop seeing all that, you can start seeing a kind of real human being with their own needs, with their own perspective and beliefs. And then, of course, that can lead to greater capacity for things like empathy or compassion or understanding, and being able to listen to others more. And that leads to greater connections, greater intimacy. And paradoxically, that will be even more fulfilling in comparison if you expected someone to meet your needs to begin with. So I think these are the kind of biggest benefits of solitude. Once we start accepting that state, once we start getting comfortable with ourselves, and essentially it is about getting comfortable with yourself, of your own presence, of your own thoughts, of your own feelings and emotions, and anything that can come into your experience. And if we keep chasing other people, if we spend most of our time with other people, then we kind of become strangers to ourselves, essentially. So the question is how do we begin? What to do with all this maybe baggage that we have about in regards to like abandonment or loneliness or feeling disconnected? How do we even begin to find comfort in solitude? I think that the first thing that we can start practicing to begin with, and that's the easiest, that's something that will start putting us on this path of accepting solitude and learning to live with loneliness or being alone, is to start choosing your time alone. So what I mean by that is that you don't just go along with completely with the flow and use the opportunity for being alone or for that solitude that will come next. But actually start consciously making time for yourself. Start making time for being by yourself by, I don't know, using a schedule or saying no to other people. And then the same, I think, needs to be said about seeing other people. That needs to be a conscious choice too. Because I think by default, we might be saying yes to other people very easily without actually thinking whether they can or whether they want to really hang out at that time, right? Whether they really need to see other people at that time. And there might be this, fear of missing out, maybe fear of losing your friends essentially, who will not maybe struggle or who will struggle to accept your needs for maybe introversion or time alone. And then there might be also maybe a fear of essentially being on your own, right? Because if you start saying no to other people, if you consciously start choosing when to see others, when to be on your own, which is kind of manifestation of listening to your needs. Once you start doing that, then essentially you start to get closer to yourself, to your own feelings, to your own thoughts. So I think the first step in learning how to find comfort in solitude is to simply start choosing it consciously. And also start choosing consciously when to see other people by consulting yourself whether you really want to do it. Or if you do notice yourself saying yes automatically to others, why do you do it? And is it something that comes from your needs for other people, from your valid needs? Or is it maybe an outdated pattern you got from your adolescence? Now, another thing that can help us to find comfort in solitude is to start learning more about yourself. So what do you need? What do you want? What your priorities are? And that might not be very clear at first once you start practicing it. If you're coming from this place of not being very comfortable on your own. So if you're generally not sure what to do when you're by yourself, I would recommend just being, simply just sitting and being with yourself, just listening to the silence, to maybe your feelings, maybe your thoughts that come up, anything that kind of enters your experience, and just being with yourself in that moment, right? And embracing all there is. I will tell you from my experience that there is lots of peace, and kind of comfort in kind of settling down and accepting that state and letting it go. I have a feeling that for some people, once they start settling into this state of aloneness and distinctness and separateness from other people, that's where these feelings of maybe rejection or isolation, of abandonment can come in, when we feel like maybe we are not good enough for other people. Man, I ended up lonely. Nobody likes me. And yeah, it's okay to feel that way, and these are valid feelings, valid questions that we might be asking ourselves. But again, once you start consciously choosing your time for yourself, for solitude, and consciously choosing when to hang out with other people, when to socialize, when to interact, then you see that your fears of maybe rejection or that there's something wrong with you, or that other people don't really like you, are maybe just kind of coming from the past, because this is just one perspective, as I said before, that you are completely separate from everyone else and everything else around you, right? Yes, you have your own body. Yes, you are kind of separate, and there are boundaries between yourself and others. But then also there's this alternative perspective that no matter what you do, you are still connected with other people. And what connects you is the fact that you are human, right? You have probably similar hobbies to other people, right? You believe in the same things that some people might believe, right? You have the same needs as other people. So no matter what you do, on that practical level, you are very connected with everyone else. And there's always support that you can find. It might be, it might not be that easy to build relationships or become intimate with anyone you meet. But that option is always there for you. So no matter what you do or what you don't do, you are not really that separate from others. So it's a matter of choosing consciously and listening to what you really need, rather than listening to your fears of maybe being abandoned or rejected. And once you start choosing, once you start making that space for yourself, that will help you to connect with people who can understand you, who can also see you. Because as I said before, then you stop seeing kind of other people as meeting your needs or who are feeling this gap or emptiness in your life. You start seeing them as authentic, real human beings with their own needs and their own wants. And that is a great opportunity for building even better connections, even more intimate connections, even more authentic connections, and especially more fulfilling connections where you are seen for who you are rather than someone who needs something from others all the time. Not saying that it's wrong to need things from others either, right? I'm talking about this kind of extreme state of filling the gap, filling the emptiness in your life. And then lastly, I think a good metaphor to use for finding that comfort in solitude is to start treating yourself as a parent. So if you look at yourself as a child, perhaps, but also as a parent, so you have these two sides. You have your kind of conscious executive center in your brain, and you have this more emotional, mushy, maybe at times needy part of yourself. Then what can you do for yourself in that moment of loneliness, solitude, or aloneness that will make you feel better? What do you want exactly? If you long for connections with other people, what do you really want from others to do? Is it simply just have to have a conversation? Is it to hug you or, spend some time with you? Is it the companionship? Or do you need something specific, like simply listening to your own feelings? Or maybe doing some journaling or playing or learning something new, or, lying under the blanket and feeling safe and comfortable. So listening to all these specific needs, because when you say that, you just need companionship, what is it exactly that you want from that companionship or connection with other people? Is it to be seen? Is it to be recognized? If that's the case, then how else can you meet that needs for recognition or attention, for example? If it's about, maybe comfort and not feeling fearful or anxious anymore, then is there anything else you could do for yourself that could meet these needs? Like, do you always have to have other people around you, basically? So essentially, finding that comfort in solitude is about listening to yourself, learning to just sit with yourself without completely freaking out, without looking for opportunities to escape yourself. Because yes, I think that very often socializing and social interactions can be a form of escape where we avoid ourselves. Yes, I think it takes lots of kind of courage or acceptance to really get the benefits from solitude and from being by yourself, and accepting that there is an alternative perspective that we are kind of separate from each other, but also there's this another perspective that no matter what we do, we are still connected. So maybe this flexibility of perspective can be very helpful, because both states have benefits. There are benefits from socializing with others and building authentic, intimate connections, but there are also lots of benefits from being by ourselves, from connecting with our needs and being able to take care of ourselves. And what comfort is that we can take care of ourselves, by ourselves, independently, autonomously from others? Wouldn't it be even better quality of comfort than, having a drink with someone or having a conversation with someone? So I hope you guys found it helpful. If you do have any questions, or if there's something you want to share from your own experience, feel free to leave a comment. And to get more content like this, I invite you to sign up for my Mastery newsletter. There is a link in the description. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.